Hello, everyone, and welcome to Really Old Movies. I'm your host, Harrison Scullin, and today I'll be discussing The Man in the White Suit from 1951, starring Alec Guinness and directed by Alexander McKendrick. Alright, some essential movie details about The Man in the White Suit from 1951. Sir Alec Guinness performed the stunt of climbing down the side of the mansion. He was convinced by a technician that the piano wire holding him up would not break. As he got to about 4 feet from the ground, the wire did in fact break. Another detail, Alec Guinness and Cecil Parker would later appear together in the classic Ealing comedy, The Lady Killers from 1955. And then lastly, the strange noises made by the laboratory apparatus were created by uncredited sound editor Mary Haberfield and produced for the soundtrack with a tuba and a bassoon. Alright, so those are some behind the scenes details about this film. Now I'll get into my thoughts on the plot. So the plot, I gave it a 3 out of 5. I thought it was just okay, not super good. I think that this is a mix of The Absent-Minded Professor from Disney mixed with James Bond. This came out before The Absent-Minded Professor, but that's kind of I would say, the feel of it. It's kind of played as a comedy, not really a serious film. I like the idea of that, the idea of a textile empire kind of collapsing with this new scientific discovery of a material that doesn't wear, tear, or anything like that. I just thought the execution was a bit bland, nothing super exciting, nothing really that entertaining. And he only wears the suit for, the last 5-10 minutes of the film. I thought it would be in it a little bit more and we'd see a little bit more of how versatile it was, but it was just there for a little bit. So I was a little disappointed with that. All right, so those are my thoughts on the plot. Now let's get into the acting. The acting, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. And I thought it was okay. Alec Guinness, he's great, but not super funny. I was wishing he was a little bit more comedic. He seemed a little too serious. It was more fun for me to see the actor for Obi-Wan, Alec Guinness, the actor for Dr. Pretorius, the actor for Alfred Pennyworth. That was more fun for me seeing all of them together in a movie than the actual acting itself. Acting was just kind of average, nothing super spectacular. There's no one that was really, really funny, which is disappointing because this is supposed to be a comedy, right? But it seemed a little serious, a little not as funny. So I was pretty disappointed with that. But that was pretty much it with the acting. Nothing spectacular, really. All right, so now talking about the directing. So I gave that a 4 out of 5. I thought the acting was just okay, but the directing I thought was a little bit better. I thought the scenes were set up really well. I love the idea of what the film was supposed to be, because apparently Alexander McKendrick's cousin wrote the screenplay that wasn't produced yet. Alexander thought, this would make a better film than it would a stage play. And then afterwards, it was made a stage play. It wasn't as successful, but I think he was right. This seems better as a movie. I just wish the execution was better. But I love the idea of it. It was just okay, though. I wasn't a huge fan overall. But I digress. The directing was just all right. I think he's done better films. Now, talking about cinematography and special effects, I gave that a 4 out of 5 as well. I thought it was really good. I thought it was shot very well. If anything, this director, he's known for having great scenes and great shots in his movies. Like in The Sweet Smell of Success, that's one of the most beautifully shot films I've ever seen. I thought it looked incredible. This was actually before that film, so you can kind of see a little bit of his style here. The camera is moving around, and it doesn't feel like we're in a fixed set. It feels like we're moving around the factory. We're moving around the different offices. It feels very realistic to me, honestly. So I thought that was really good. And the special effects of the suit was kind of cool. They put some type of reflective material either on it or they had like reflective mirrors. I'm not really sure, but I thought that was a cool effect. An in-camera effect too. I thought that was really cool. And I thought the scientific equipment was kind of cool as well. Again, remind me a little bit of Absent-Minded Professor in that way too. But yeah, I thought it was good. This is probably the highlight of the film. It's nothing super spectacular. All right, now talking about the music, I give that a 3 out of 5. It's just kind of generic, nothing really special. You know, not a musical score like Casablanca or any of those movies. It just has pretty generic music. It's more of the sound effects that you hear a lot. And it's this kind of like glug, glug, glug sound that's kind of funny that's played throughout the film. But music-wise, there isn't a whole lot. It was just all right. All right, so tallying that all up, that brings my Letterboxd score to a 3.5 out of 5. So would I recommend this movie? It's tough to say. For me, it was just okay, not great. I would say stick to watching Sweet Smell of Success if you want to see a really good Alexander McKendrick film. That movie is one of my favorite films of all time. It's got great dialogue, great cinematography, great characters, really interesting story. That is a much better film by him than this one is. And I've also read, so Ealing Studios was a company in Britain. I think it's still around, not entirely sure, but they made a lot of comedies, and Alec Guinness was in a lot of them back in the 40s and 50s. I would like to see some of the other ones like The Lady Killers, which is also another McKendrick film. And then another one called Keen Hearts and Coronets, where Alec Guinness plays like 8 different characters or something like that. I think that's pretty crazy. But personally, I wouldn't super recommend this movie. I would say, like I said, stick to other McKendrick films and other Alec Guinness films. I think his better films that aren't Star Wars are definitely the David Lean ones, at least from what I've seen so far. But I do want to check out The Lady Killers and King Hearts and Coronets. I hear they're really, really funny. And I want to check out more of these Ealing comedies. I haven't heard anything about them until recently. And so, yeah, I look forward to checking out more of those. And honestly, a funnier version of this movie is going to be something like The Absent-Minded Professor from Disney. I really liked that one. This movie is definitely not as funny as that. Definitely not as good as that. That movie is a much better version of this one. All right, well, those are my thoughts on The Man in the White Suit from 1951. Thank you so much for watching and listening to today's episode. Make sure to follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Really Old Movies, where I discuss details about the week's particular film. New podcast episodes are released Saturdays at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music, and video versions on YouTube and Rumble Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. All right, thank you so much. This has been Really Old Movies. I'm your host, Harrison Scullin. Take care.